318 Latino. Por internet desde Shreveport.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Brian Garcia here in Public Interest with 318 Latino. Thank you for being here with us today. And before we start, I want to go ahead and thank our sponsors for the day. We are going to thank Kingston Neighborhood Market. Here's a quick commercial for you.
Kingston Neighborhood Market is now hiring. Kitchen, cooks, butchers, cashiers, and janitorial positions are now available. Come fill in your application today at 5604 Highway 3 in Benton. Kingston Neighborhood Market wants to hire you today.
And we're back. All right. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we have members of the Bossier Parish School Board. We have Mr. Jason Rowland. He is the Assistant Superintendent. And we also have Ms. Sonjia Bales, the Public Relations Liaison, here with us today. How are you doing today?
We are wonderful. Thanks for having us here today.
Hey, it's a pleasure.
Doing great. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And thank you for coming here today at 318 Latino, where we try to build bridges between the Latino community and the community in general here in the Shreveport-Bossier region in general. Well, guys, we get to speak about a very important topic today. We're going to talk about our children's education, specifically in the parish of Bossier, because, well, as we have seen, we're going with starting schools, even though we are going through this pandemic, the coronavirus roaming around. You know, there's a lot of people wondering if we shouldn't start school again, but education is something that is very, very important for our community in general. So I believe August 12th is going to be when classes start again in the parish of Bossier.
Well, that is the target date for now. Mm-hmm. We are looking at a couple of additional things that have just come up in the last couple of days. We're really looking toward the August 7th governor's announcement of where we will be at that time. Mm-hmm. We have, since Monday's announcement, of course, and then tomorrow we're still going to be remaining in phase 2 mm-hmm. with the limitations of 50 people in a group setting. We try to gain information from what's really being said through that and how that impacts our schools. And so we do have a concern about the next announcement, which is going to be August the 7th. And if there was any type of significant change, we're concerned that a 3-day turnaround might not mm-hmm. give us enough time to respond to that. Mm-hmm. And so we are currently right now in the process of possibly making some alterations to the calendar. It won't be anything drastic, but it would give us a time gap between the August 7th next announcement mm-hmm. and then the start of school, which we're still working on determining. So there could be a delay. We may stay with what we've got, but as of today where I'm sitting, August 12th, we're looking forward to that and excited about getting our school year going.
Excellent. Well, one of the main things people are of course, worried about is what new practices are going to be putting in place in order to keep, kids from having, being more vulnerable to the coronavirus. I mean, one of the things people have been talking about, a lot is, homeschooling or virtual classes. But as far as the classroom, what new methods are we putting in? Are we limiting classes? Are we putting, distancing in place? What's happening inside the classrooms?
Well, we're following all the guidelines from the CDC, from the Louisiana Department of Health, and they're working in conjunction with the LDOE, the Department of Education. And so essentially we're going to take the what I would consider the cultural standards that we apply everywhere, which is hand sanitization, social distancing, mm-hmm. and the wearing of masks, into everything that we're doing. And those are the 3 key things that I don't think they're not going to be practiced at school. I think they're part of our cultural practice now.
Yes, sir.
I think that's how we are evolving as we learn to deal with this pandemic. So the good suggestions that are being made to us are mm-hmm. things that we're going to do in schools. We've said this, and I know Ms. Bells has probably heard me say this too many times now. We believe the schools are going to be the safest place that our kids will go, and we trust in that they're going to be cleaner than our grocery stores, our restaurants, our any of the places our students frequent. Our schools are going to be cleaner. We have amped up the custodial practice that we're going to implement. We have a fantastic plan as far as a product that we've purchased that kills 99.9% of the coronavirus and the things that come from that. And our schools are equipped with that already. We're going to have disinfectants in the classroom, hand sanitizing stations in and throughout our schools.
Excellent.
Access to, hand cleaner. There's just a lot of different behind-the-scenes things that'll go on after the school day is over that our custodians have been equipped with already. Our maintenance department has created and are implementing a COVID response practice, and so we have a lot of protocol that they've developed and that the public won't see. It'll be after hours when those things come into play. We've been blessed with the opportunity to purchase large product or large aeroclaves we will have available at schools that need to do a total sterilization of a wing, a classroom, even a building, and this can be done overnight. So there's just we have not spared any opportunity to gain accessibility, to gain a foothold on how to protect our students and our staffs.
Additionally, there will be daily temperature checks for all students as well as staff members. And also, as he mentioned, the sanitation stations, hand sanitization stations, that's a hard word to say. It's kind of tricky. Not only in our schools, but also on our buses. So when students first board the bus, there will be a hand sanitizer station there for when they enter the bus.
Perfect. And transportation, that's going to be a big one as well. So let me talk about capacity because, as we know, restaurants have been limited to 50%. Has that been applied to schools as well?
Well, the number, the 50% but the number is what we're going by now. So we have 3 different levels of buses. We have 66 passenger, we have 74 and 88 passenger buses. So for each one of those classified buses, we have an exact number. So we're not going 50%, maybe you could probably hedge 50% at 34, 35, and you're still at 50%.
Right.
We're going with 33 on a 66 passenger bus. And so that's what has been one of the biggest challenges, to make sure we are exact.
Right.
We're not going to be over. Now, we may very well be under, which is fine. But that ability to service our kids in the community at that number, we don't have any wiggle room to go above and beyond.
So, big question: if we're going half as far as how many we can do at a time, are we opening more schools, adding more buses, limiting schedules?
We're running more routes.
Okay.
We're going to have to. Some schools we've had to shift opening and our beginning and end times so that we can run the necessary amount of routes that it takes. And look, we don't know how many are going to ride buses now. We had about 60% of the students in Bossier Parish riding buses.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so 40% either walked or they drove to school or their parents brought them to school. We don't know what that number's going to be, and so, but we're anticipating the normal percentage of capacity riders that we've had in the past. So what we've done is we've shifted our times to allow for buses that may run a route, but that same route will be run multiple times in order to pick up the kids that are coming. All that's going to be fleshed out when we actually start. And so we're going to learn a lot more the weekend after the first couple of days of school than we do going in. And so
we're also asking our parents who are able to transport their children to and from school, as long as we're in phases 2 and 3, because even when we go into phase 3, we're still going to be at a reduced capacity on our buses. And so we're still going to be running into some challenges. And so only those who are able, we would greatly appreciate it. But please let your viewers know that transportation will be made available by Bossier schools.
Excellent.
Great point. It has really been, out of everything that we've done, the transportation piece has been the most challenging to solve. A lot of our schools have max capacity buses, and their entire fleet is max capacity. So what we mean by that is getting to a half capacity was extremely difficult. And so a lot of changes. Our transportation director, Colonel David Haddon, has worked. There's no way to describe the effort and the time that he has spent to reroute, organize, tier, grade, change, move. The dynamics of it are and they're still fluid. Even as we're talking this afternoon, we're still tweaking, changing, adjusting to the needs of the students.
Big. I mean, that's a big part of being able to get to school is having available transportation. And for many of us, I personally had to ride public school. Not only, and it's not that we lack the resources; it's the time. Parents have to go to work.
Absolutely.
They have certain times they have to get there, and having that ability of, having the system being able to come pick you up and take you back home, it helps a lot. It helps parents a lot. It helps the economy a lot. But I'm glad those measures are being taken. Does that mean there's going to be a shift in class, what time it starts and what time it ends, or a bus is going to come in earlier and then have a regular route right before?
That's a good question, and really, that's the answer is yes to both those. We have shifted some start times back or earlier, and so that means that school would get out earlier. What we had to do was we developed two tiers. We developed a tier 1 and a tier 2, and we had to create space and time between. A lot of buses in Bossier Parish, a lot of people don't understand this, especially if you're from a rural community. Our buses serve as many as 3 schools. So you may drop off at Airline High School, Green Acres Middle School, and W.T. Lewis Elementary. And so we're running different routes to gain 3 different grade bands, or to gather 3 different grade bands of students. And so what we did was we created time gaps to have that bus to be able to go and get all the kids that need to go to Airline. Let's get them taken care of first. And then you can run your routes for Green Acres and W.T. Lewis, and a lot of that can be comboed together. Excellent. So those, yes, we're going to have to move, but we're putting in practice where we will have to drop students earlier. A lot of times our schools would say, here's your drop time. Your drop time for a 7:30 start is going to be 7:10 or 7:15. Those drop times have to be expanded so we can get kids on campus, supervised by teachers who will be on campus, by the way. And then we can get started with running another route if need be, and then those students will be escorted to their rooms where we begin the temperature checks and all the daily protocol, right, Belle?
That's right.
So one of the big questions I have right now, just because of how much controversy is brought at a national level, is masks. The fact that people are being, quote unquote, disciplined by the government to wear a mask if, they go to a store and they're not wearing a mask, they're not allowed to be in there. What measurements are going to be taken in school as far as disciplinary action for not wearing one if it is required?
Well, discipline, I think that's going to be an evolving a task. We've dealt with things that were not popular in our culture, and that have transferred into schools. We've dealt with that over the years, time and time again. So we'll use experience. I think one thing that we try to educate people to do the things that science or what the doctors or what our governing bodies are telling us to do. So education is the key. There's no way we can dispute what science is saying about the effectiveness of the mask.
Right.
I don't think anybody can argue that one point and can prove on the other side. So as a part of what our guidelines are and our plan given to us by the Louisiana Department of Education, a mask will be worn. Science says that's the best chance for us to gain control of this. And so we're going to do that. And every student and every teacher in Bossier Parish will be provided a cloth mask by the Department of Homeland Security. They've given that to Bossier Parish. And plus every school and site will have those spare masks, if you will, for those that forget theirs or don't have theirs. Plus we've seen, a lot of people are embracing the opportunity to sell something that we're not a big fan of making money off a pandemic. I can tell you that at the school board, but they are providing masks with school school logos and school mascots and things
excellent.
like that to be a part of the uniform.
Now, the masks are required for 3rd grade through 12th grade. Our students who are pre-K through 2nd grade, they are not required to wear masks. However, we encourage them to do so if they choose to do that. But it is required for 3rd grade and above, as well as all of our adults.
Excellent. Now, as far as registration, how can we start registering for school if we are going to go the route of going to school, in the Bossier Parish?
Well, registration protocols will follow, will be similar to what we've done in the past. One of the challenges with Bossier Parish this year, and it wasn't planned, was we are transferring, and we have transitioned for the most part into a new student information system, which if you ask our technology supervisor about that, he says you want to do that about once in your lifetime in the position that he's in. So there were some online capabilities to where we could register online. I don't know if we fleshed out all the details to that yet. So what we will do is we'll take the guiding principles for Bossier schools, and then we will apply these concepts to every facet of what we're trying to do. So with registration, we'll have the days that are set up. We'll have isolated places. We'll have protective plexiglass in front of the registrar or the person that's taking the information. Parents and students will be expected to wear masks inside, and especially where social distancing is not going to be, it's not going to be probable. It may be possible, but you have to communicate. There's a lot of people that come in and out. We will also, look to do the crowd limitations, and we won't be able to put 100 people in the registrar's office to register their child. We will have to ask parents to wait out in their cars, wait till we can be in. So the best way I can explain it is the guiding principles that we have will have to be applied to every single function that we do, especially when it comes to when it pertains to our community.
Speaking of the new student identification system, next week we're going to be communicating information to our parents about the opt-in procedure for them to be able to receive those important notices, text messages, and alerts from the district as well as from their schools. But it's going to be important for them to when they get that code across their phone, that they opt in. And we are only allowed to send that message out one time by law, and for them to be able to opt in at that time for us to continue sending text message alerts. So please be on the lookout for that. It's going to be conveyed on our social media channels, on our Facebook page, as well as on our district website, bossierschools.org. But as Mr. Rowland was just explaining right now, it's not the ideal time, obviously, to be transferring to another student identification system during a pandemic, and to be able to not have access to reach all of our parents about all the communications that we're trying to, give out to them, but this will help us tremendously once we have their information, correct phone numbers, email addresses, so we can communicate from here on out.
Absolutely. And as far as, hang on, before I forget this, were you a news anchor?
That was my first career. This
Really?
is my second.
As soon as you turned, that was like the perfect news anchor. I don't know. It's like you had a prompter in front of you, and there's not one. But that was,
She was the
All
best
ad-libbing.
that there's ever been, and we were lucky enough to get her.
wow.
Thank you.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Well, thank
I'm sorry. Let's continue. Actually, I think this would be a perfect time to go to a break. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much.
318 Latino por internet desde Shreveport.
Kingston Neighborhood Market is now hiring. Kitchen, cooks, butchers, cashiers, and janitorial positions are now available. Come fill in your application today at 5604 Highway 3 in Benton. Kingston Neighborhood Market wants to hire you today. Holiday Inn downtown Shreveport is now hiring for the following positions: maintenance man, room attendant, laundry attendant, front desk clerk, and accounting clerk. Wages starting at $9 an hour depending on experience. For more information, call 318-200-4297 or 318-834-7277.
Desde Shreveport, 318 Latino.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen, here in 318 Latino Public Interest. We have the Assistant Superintendent of the Bossier Parish School Board, as well as the Public Relations Liaison, Ms. Sonjia Bells, and Mr. Jason Rowland. Guys, again, thank you so much for being here with us today and all the information you're providing for us. It's very necessary, in these hard times. So my next question, I mean, we've covered a good bit about transportation and the new systems put in place as far as the classroom and stuff like that. Let us know a little bit about the lunch process now. Are they being divided up as well? Yeah,
the child nutrition program has, much like transportation, much like maintenance, much like any other operation of our school system, has had to take a hard look at how to, again, take the guiding principles of the Bossier Parish school system and how we deal with COVID and apply them to the child nutrition program. So we have protocol in place for them. We have sanitization protocol, number one. We have limitations in the number of students that can be in the building and how we're going to manage that. And we also have a plan for in-person students as well as students that are remote as well. So there's a lot of different factors that go into play, but just to speak to what the day would look like, we will be mainly functioning in a grab-and-go type meal program. What do we mean by that is the student will come into the space, into the cafeteria space, and they will retrieve either the breakfast or lunch. And we will either have designated places for them to go where they can eat and function that are socially distant. That's the key. Or they will return to their class where they are in that particular period of the day. And that's going to be by and large for 6 through 12 that are rotating. Also, those that are on their remote day, we are working out details with our child nutrition supervisor, Ms. Carla Horton, and the principal of that school to develop a plan and a time where those remote students, that's the student that is on the off day, where they can gain access to the campus and come in and pick up a grab-and-go meal as well. So we have a couple different things there that we're still fleshing out. Elementary schools that are in person, K-5 each day, there will be a lot of rotational methods that are going on. The kids will come in. And K-3, we are providing the practice of allowing them to eat in the cafeteria space simply because it's extremely difficult for a kindergartner, first, second, third grader to eat in a classroom and just not making a total mess of everything they're doing. So we're going to confine the mess to one space, if you will. And so we can socially distance them one class at a time, 25 in a group. We're trying to stay in direct alliance or in alignment with what the governor's provided for us as far as numbers.
Yeah, and keeping them in those static groups, it's so important. And I do want to mention that, the child nutrition piece is critical. And we certainly saw that once the governor ordered the stay-at-home order back in March. We immediately went into emergency site feedings to where several of our schools served as sites where meals were provided. And on average, during a week, we would give tens of thousands, 22,000, I think it is, 22,000 meals that we would give out to children birth to 18 years old. And that continues to this day up until this Friday. In fact, we have had 3 partner churches that have stepped in to continue providing meals for our children of Bossier Parish in need. And so we do want to give a special thank you to Bel Air Baptist, First Bossier, and also North Point Community Church for feeding our children and just loving on them during these hard times.
Hey, shout out to them, man. That's awesome. That's amazing. And of course, that's one thing I hadn't thought about is having those kids that are going to be, during those remote days, a lot of them do depend on breakfast and lunch being provided by the school. So that's something I hadn't thought about. Now is that going to be like, come pick it up all at once, come pick up your breakfast and your lunch, in the morning? Or?
There's a couple models we're working on, and we try to leave that up to what works best for the school. Right. Some schools may feel like, I need to send home the breakfast and lunch with the students that eat at the school, that the school serves out of the cafeteria the day that they're there, and send them a meal home. Of course, there's some downside to that. Number one, does the meal get home? Number two, does the meal is it not consumed that evening as a dinner or something later on that day. So we have to try to be mindful of what's best for the student.
Yeah, absolutely.
In an ideal situation, we would like for that student to be able to come back on campus that day and pick the meal up and then go home. But then you've got transportation issues, back to school. You've got just various sundry things where you may have a group that's been static on this day, and now you're bringing in somebody else. So a lot of factors to determine, but we've got a good plan. We got a good concept that we're still working through.
All right, and yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's going to be, like you said, there's in the first couple of weeks of school, there's probably going to be, a lot of fluidity on the plans as far as what's working good, what needs to be changed and stuff like that. So, I personally don't think there's going to be something that's going to be solid from day one and through. There's going to be a lot of changes on the way.
We ask for grace. We ask for everyone's grace and their patience, because we're going to be navigating through, uncharted waters as we have been since March. And we closed out the school year during a pandemic, and we're starting a school year during a pandemic. So it poses some new challenges as you're talking about reopening our campuses for the first time in several months. And, you want to make sure that our students and our staff safety, they're paramount. It's paramount.
Right. And I mean, back to mentioning remote days, what are we projecting? What are we going to believe that this is going to do as far as the education of the child? Are they, are we giving them homework to take home and do it there and then come back, day after? And, are we, what measures are being taken so that we know that we're giving them the same education that they would have were they in the system?
That's a great question. And so, let me say this to you, and we believe this, and Ms. Bell's just reiterated this point. We believe the face-to-face instruction is the most critical aspect of us being able to try to regain what was lost in March, April, and May. We realize that our kids are going to come back to us already behind the curve, and there's already some gaps, okay? So while there are certain students that are capable of learning virtually, the optimal thing you can do is put a child in front of, or put a teacher in front of a child. That is the best that we can offer for them. Unfortunately, while we're in phase 2, we cannot have full groups, so we've just divided into different groups, or Group A and Group B, an alternating day, and with a hybrid schedule. And what we are currently working on is the lesson that is taught on Monday is for that group, and then there's going to be a lesson taught on Tuesday. The group that comes on Tuesday is responsible for what was taught on Monday, and vice versa. So many of our teachers, many are already working on what day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to day 90 looks like in the first term. And there are assignments, there is practice, there is instruction, there are videos already. I've seen some of this already loaded up, where you can go to the day, the time, the place, and the student that's in so-and-so's class will have that opportunity to click on that. Also, the teachers, by and large, are going to be recording themselves, recording the questions that came up in the engagement part with the group that's there, and that will be loaded as well. And so those students, on the day that they are remote, by the time they get to that day, everything they need for that day at home is already loaded on that Google Classroom of that teacher. That's going to be one of the primary platforms that we use. We do have some schools that are going to use Nearpod, some are going to use Castify, and we do have some schools that are Paradex schools as well. And these are all virtual aspects that they use to create lessons. You asked a good question earlier about how has this changed education. It's changed education in every way. What we have to do is be prepared to do things like we've never done them before. And for us to be able to do that, we have to learn, practice, and exercise things we've never done before.
Absolutely.
And so this virtual piece is key. Does it replace the in-person conversation and engagement you have with a teacher? No way. Not even close. But it is better than nothing. And it is, there are some virtual learners, not many, but we're excited about our opportunity to explore and adventure into things that we've never done before. And I've said this too many times too, and to see how well we can do it, because that's our mindset. We're
going into this school year much better prepared than how we ended it back in May. For one thing, we asked our teachers to pivot literally overnight from a traditional model of teaching to having to learn how to be able to present virtually. And so for a lot of them, that was new as well, that concept. But since that time, they have quickly adapted. They have taken various professional development courses over the summer, so now they're much better able to present that information on a virtual platform. Another challenge that we encountered during the stay-at-home order from March through May was internet accessibility by many of our families, and also the lack of technology.
Right.
In a lot of your remote areas, you just don't have the bandwidth that's needed to be able to access, the internet.
Absolutely.
And so that was a weakness that was identified. As a result, the Federal CARES Act money that has been funded to the local school districts, we've been able to use some of that to be able to purchase additional technology, such as Chromebooks, to be able to issue out to our students at the beginning of this school year who do not have those tools, and also some MiFi, some Wi-Fi, some hotspots. It's a Band-Aid approach in some cases for those rural areas.
Absolutely.
That, if you don't have anything to connect to, it's still going to be a problem, but we're in a much better position, as I said, going into the school year than we ended.
So you mentioned this is more of a, as far as going to school, physically, it's more of a hybrid version now. It's not, throughout the years, we've been doing a lot of replacing books for CDs or, digital books where you can get on your computer. And I think it's been a slow, gradual push of adding more technology to our public schools. And this kind of just forced us to make that push, to make, a lot of people don't want to have to buy new books on paper. And I think, based on the ecosystem, that's probably better, not having to kill all those trees to get the books. But it's different having a book that you can write your notes on and stuff like that, and than actually just having the notes on a CD. And you mentioned the big thing right there is the fact that not everybody has access to the internet. I personally have a lot of friends that are out in very rural areas that don't have even on their phone. Sure. Even if they have the best system on their phone, it's hard to connect to, and there's spots in their house where they just won't have any internet. Yeah. Right. And I think that's infrastructure, problem that local governments are going to have to look into. Not just the communication, not companies that we have, but that the government's going to have to step in and be like, all right, we need infrastructure in these areas as well, to educate, the people in those areas as well.
You're spot on about that. It is a national problem, but it's certainly a state and local problem for us as well. And the challenges that we did face has resulted, I must say, in the Bossier Parish Police Jury, our local Northwest Louisiana delegation, and many other community stakeholders coming together and trying to find solutions. We know that, fiber being laid is, I guess, the solution. We're not quite there yet, but they are trying to identify monies to be able to make that happen. But also, as you said, to identify it as an essential service and key to infrastructure, to where we would be able to get some state assistance for that.
You brought up a very good point about the technology and how technology has influenced education, and the idea that over the last 5 years, we've had a lot of teachers dabble, what we would consider dabble in technology, or dabble in the virtual side, where you would see a lot of teachers would have, at the end of the day, they would load their lesson notes to their Google Classroom or to their platform that they were using. So if you were out, you could just go and see everything that you talked about that day. They would load projects. They would do a lot of different things. So a lot of teachers in the Bossier Parish school system have been, I hate to use the word dabble, but they've been practicing a little bit. But this pandemic forced us to go and learn a new way to teach. And at the end of the day, when we get through with all the crying and gnashing of teeth of what that looks like, we're going to be better.
Yes.
We're going to be better educators, because now we're more well-versed. We have more skills. We have more tools in the toolbox. We're going to be able to do things that they've never been able to do before, and hopefully reach the technological student, which a lot of kids are now, reach them and meet them in their learning environments, not just in our teaching environments.
Absolutely. And I mean, being able to operate a computer opens up your world to new careers, like not many people imagine. There's a lot of people that want to go into trades, like being a mechanic or being a carpenter, but they can't run the business side of their business because they can't, make out a spreadsheet or stuff like that. And, you might be very well versed in the physical aspect of your job, but not being able to control it really in that. So I think it's going to bring up, a lot of new careers, new opportunities for a lot of people that want to open up their own business or stuff like that. I personally was somebody who I like both. I was able to learn from a person and take directions on certain aspects. But then there's other parts of me, being able to learn that I learned from YouTube. I learned from things that I didn't really want to take direction from a teacher because there's more creative aspects to it. But the combination, the balance of it, man, I love it. I think that's going to be perfect. And there's going to be some things we're going to have to work out, but we're well on the way to bettering the school system, in my belief.
We are stronger, thus the title of our reopening plan, Bossier's Strong Start.
I like it. Here's another thing I like to touch on. We have, as a nation, as a complete nation, gone through an emotional roller coaster as far as closing down businesses, trying to reopen, shutting down again and trying to reopen again, changing, all types of regulations in order to continue operating. And that's a big stress on parents. That's a big stress on businesses. That's a big stress ultimately on the kids. Mental health is going to be a big issue. In my particular belief, are we adding more counselors? Are we doing something in that sense to kind of help keep kids more stable?
One of the things that if you step back and you look at everything that's going on from 10,000 feet, one of the consistent efforts, and I would say it's a priority in this country, and I know it is for us, is to get schools open. No matter if the cases are spiking, no matter what we're seeing going on, there's a consistent thread to get schools open because people realize that kids, our students, need the schools. They need the connectivity. They need to be around people. They need to be around their peers. They need that conversation. They need to be engaged. They need to see different things and see different people. I read a deal not too long ago, an article about, we're unsure what we are unsure how much damage the last 5 months have done to the social and emotional needs of our kids. We may not, and we may not know for 5 years what COVID-19 or the spring of 2020 in through the summer, how that, I hate to use the word handicap, but it may have limited a lot of our kids, our students in their ability to mature and process and grow, and so that's going to be something that we have to be mindful of. I read another article about when schools do open, teachers don't be so rigid because they do want to talk to their friends. They are glad to see their friends. They do want to hug them. And we can't even handshake when we walk in the room, which we understand, but to them, all that is secondary.
Yeah, and I mean, the reason I asked that question is because my girlfriend's got a little kid, and she's seen him. She mentioned something to me that kind of broke my heart. She said he came into her room and said, "Mommy, I'm lonely." This little kid, this is not somebody you'd expect to be so open or so aware of his emotions to that he'll tell you exactly how he feels. Mommy, I'm lonely. He's been at the house for that amount of time, not being really able to have friends or have, people around.
Similar story. I was talking to a friend of mine, and her granddaughter, she said, is a social butterfly, and she's, I think, 7, 8 years old. And she asked, "Are you excited about going back to school and see your friends?" And she said, "I don't have any friends. I used to, but I don't anymore."
Oh, wow.
And, I mean, that just rips your heart out. And like Mr. Rowland was talking about, our schools are not just about academics. They're about socialization. Those social skills that are modeled through the schools are so important for our kids, as well as the mental support, the social and emotional support that they get from schools. So we're trying our best, like we said, to address those, particularly with those who are back pre-K through 5th grade. daily instruction and trying to get our middle and high schoolers hopefully back to face every day as well.
Right.
But, AB schedule at least through phase 2.
Absolutely. Now we're talking about the social aspect of school as well. Extracurricular activities, sports. Are we still doing that? Are we pausing it for the moment?
Well, this is a great transition. I just had a conversation this morning thinking about our middle and high schools, and primarily our high schools. Bossier Parish, the high schools in our parish are vital to the community. And for some of them, it's the lifeblood of that community. We continue to look forward to what the school brings to the community, and that's just it's an annual cycle that they continue to look forward to this, and this, whatever the school is doing. And so, I think it's critical for our communities that the schools are back up and functioning. Unfortunately, during phase 2, there really are no extracurricular activities. We don't have the protocol. We don't have the allowance of numbers or the things that are in place right now to be able to do those things.
Right.
Phase 3 does give us some opportunity to begin to move in that direction. In the event, our goal is to move through phase 3 and take on some of the things that we used to be able to do with our Bossier Parish guidelines is leading us in everything that we're doing. And then by the time, if we do go to phase or the next phase or the reopen or whatever's out there after phase 3, then we are standing on the doorstep ready to go through the door. We're not going to ramp up to it. We're going to be ready.
Right, sir.
And so if that was the case, that's kind of how we are mapping out getting through phase 3. We're not saying anything is canceled, anything is closed off. We may have to shorten, we may have to bridge, we may have to slide some dates, but we still hope to be able to provide everything that our kids have enjoyed in a regular school year.
All right. And on that note, we're going to go to a short break right quick. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay with us. Go ahead and share and like this video. Leave us a comment, leave us a question if you like. We'll be here for a little bit longer. Hang on.
318 Latino por internet desde Shreveport.
El Novillo Meat Market is the official Hispanic store in town. Get over here for your marinated ribs, fajitas, chicken wings, beef and pork, fresh baked Mexican pastry every day, fresh products and deli department. 2242 Barksdale Boulevard, a few blocks from the base. El Novillo Meat Market.
Holiday Inn downtown Shreveport is now hiring for the following positions: maintenance man, room attendant, laundry attendant, front desk clerk, and accounting clerk. Wages starting at $9 an hour depending on experience. For more information, call 318-200-4297 or 318-834-7277.
Desde Shreveport, 318 Latino.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen, here on 318 Latino Public Interest. We've been talking, going up and down the emotional roller coaster of opening up these schools again, specifically in the parish of Bossier. One last thing I like to ask you guys, specifically for my community, for the Latino community, is two things. Are there ways for us to get the information we need in Spanish as far as registration? And for those kids that are coming in that don't really know English, I was one of them myself, are there ESL classes in schools in the Bossier Parish?
Without a doubt. At our school website, we have things that can be translated into Spanish. Of course, we have 20 different languages that are spoken in Bossier Parish schools, and so we try to make sure we can identify those students and those needs. The registration forms, we have counselors that have the skills to be able to communicate in Spanish. I know more and more schools are hiring bilingual counselors that are able to communicate to the Latino community. Also with ESL, we have all those courses or all those classes that are available for those students that need that support in and throughout the school and through the school year. And we're looking forward to getting our Latino community back going. We think that face-to-face, them coming and being a part of that daily instruction is key for them, especially because we usually provide smaller classes with more personal instruction, and we can't wait to see them and get them going again.
And something that Mr. Rowland mentioned a little bit earlier was about the learning gaps that have been identified since March. There was a leading national education expert who identified that there was approximately a 30% learning loss in English language arts across the nation, and up to 50% learning gap in math. And then there was a national survey through the U.S. Chamber of Commerce that was just released that shows that the Hispanic community identifies a larger than 30% gap in English language arts when it comes to learning loss since March. So another reason that we're anxious to get all of our kiddos back into school and be able to, accelerate learning. We're not planning on necessarily remediating. We have had teacher committees that have met over the summer, and they have identified those key standards, in all of our content areas that students may have missed between March and May. That is going to be embedded and carried across to the next grade that the student is starting in. It will be integrated into new learning material as we accelerate them to get them where they need to be, not only at the beginning of the school year, but by the end of the 2021 school year, so they can advance.
Excellent. And just one last question, since we're mentioning teachers, before we head out. Are there any more incentives for teachers to start, kind of like the essential workers incentives or stuff like that? Because that's going to be really, I don't know how to put this, getting teachers more motivated to work during these times.
Well, I think one of the things that our teachers need to understand is going forward, what we experienced in March, April, and May is not what August of 2020 looks like. It's a 180, and most of them have the wherewithal and the pride in what they do to make sure that they are as prepared as they can be before we can actually bring them in and do our own PD, our professional development that we have planned. I would think if teachers across the district do not have a sense of urgency about them at this time, I would hope that as we get closer to that day and as they begin to think through in their mind, what does the virtual piece look like to me? What does the remote day look like to me? Am I equipped to do this? I would hope self-assessment would win out and they would reach out to get any training, any PD that we have that would be able to assist them. Most of our staffs are highly motivated to do a great job. I mean, it's just not, success in a school system just doesn't come. It's not organic. It's just not natural. It takes a lot of hard work by people that are motivated to be successful.
Absolutely. There's a few careers out there that, they're not jobs, they're callings. As far as police officers, that's not just a job, man. That's a calling. That's something you want to do.
Field.
Same goes with teachers. I have a lot of respect and a lot of love for them. Guys, we are unfortunately running out of time. Is there anything else you guys would like to mention? Anything we've missed in this interview?
I would just like to say we, on behalf of the Bossier Parish School Board, we are super excited about the kickoff of Bossier Strong Start 2020. We think that we have a great plan in place. We think our kids are going to be safe. We think the reservation of the community is warranted. However, we think we've tried to cover as much as possible to provide a safe environment for the students and staff. That's been our main goal. And we feel confident that we're able to do that. We are excited about seeing people back in the schools. We're excited about utilizing the school as a community center, as where we can get people eventually back on our campuses and allow them to enjoy the things that bring us so much pride and joy. So we're excited. We still have some work to do. We've got some time to do it, and we look forward to a great year, a year unlike any other we've seen before.
I could not have said that better myself, so ditto.
Excellent. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here with us today. Go ahead and like and share this video. Leave us any questions if you like. If we weren't able to answer your questions as of this interview, we'll send them over to Ms. Sonjia so that we can get some answers for you as well. Mr. Jason, Ms. Sonjia, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you. We enjoyed it.
It was great fun.
Adiós.
Ya no necesitas buscar lo mejor del regional, urbano,
me dijo mi madre que yo nunca me rajé,
pop y tropical. Está en una sola radio. 318 Latino. Por internet desde Shreveport.